Good evening, everybody. With all my heart and with all my love, I welcome you to our Thursday night Anamkara meditation program. So good of you to be able to join us on this lovely summer evening. So thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing your divine essence, the truth of who you are. That's really about this program that we do, is getting to know that more and more deeply and experiencing that moment by moment. So thank you for coming to satsang this evening. And you also bring, that unique quality of people who do practices, are committed to practice, and bringing the power of your practices. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for the difference that makes in the world day by day as you walk that truth into the world. So this evening, as usual, we'll be starting with the opening mantras. And the mantras are a way of invoking that direct experience of the truth of who we are. Mantra is a throb of the infinite, a throb of our own true nature, our own highest being. And so when we engage in mantra, we're inviting the mind to let go and let go and let go, so that then that infinitude of being that's always here, always present, here right now in all its fullness, then we can come to know that, because our attention doesn't keep wandering away, walking with the mind into all the places it so habitually goes. So we start with the opening mantras, and then we'll sit for a few moments just in that stillness. Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai Jananam Bhuta Ganari Sevitam Kapita Jambo Palacharu Bhakshanam Umasutam Shokam Vinashakarakam Namami Vigneshwara Parapankajam Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate Om Shanti 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 Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai. And once again, with all my heart, with all my love, I welcome you to our program this evening. So this evening, we wanted to do a kind of question and answer session. And somebody, one of our sangha members, emailed a question in, but it was a very good question that this person asked. So we'll get into that, and that'll lead to some more things, no doubt. So now this person was asking about something from a poem in the new book, Oh My Beloved. And that's a course. We're also going to be doing a contemplative course, listening to the divine within, based on this. And that was also had been scheduled to start, but we had to postpone that. So in this question, the person says, in your book, Oh My Beloved, you write on page 29 about pass through the portal. And then later you write, inviting you to leave behind your fears, to pass through the portal to the eternal. And then she asks about, well, what is it? What is that portal about? And is it desire, longing, showing up for practices that opens the way through that portal? Is it grace or being ripe It's all I imagine. And so would you talk more about that? So to help set the context for that, because the portal as a symbol is really significant in the Eastern traditions. The portal is the Bindu. So I want to read the poem, the first poem that this person referred to. And so this is a poem that starts on page 27 of Oh My Beloved. It says, "And the One spoke. And the One spoke, saying, if you want to know who you are, I will show you who I truly am. Behold earth, the ground of your existence. I became earth, all elements and forms I am. Behold water, life's blood. I became water, all that flows I am. Behold the fire, living flame of all life. I became fire, dancing, illuminating, warming, transmuting, light and life of the universe I am. Behold air, uplifting, carrying, dispersing. I became air, wind, and storm, breath of life I am. Behold space, embracing and penetrating, atoms to galaxies. I became space, tenderly holding all my creation. Nothing and no one is ever left out. Boundless heart of love, infinitely spacious, I am. Behold mind, a ray of my consciousness. I became mind, continuously moving, seeking to know, to taste, to smell, to touch, to hear, to see, all I've become. Soul knower, I am. Behold emptiness, the magnificent black void. I became emptiness. Womb and tomb, Bindu, portal between the finite and the infinite, between the ephemeral and the eternal. Cause of all causes, I am. Behold, pure being, about which nothing can be said, not even by me. Pass through the portal and revel in knowing you are the one. You are the one. The one that spoke is your true nature. The one who reveals. The one who creates. The one who sustains. The one who hides. The one who reveals. To know that, we have to pass through that portal. And we speak about that, and it's spoken about in so many different sutras and texts in the yogic and Hindu and Buddhist tradition. In fact, at the center of the Mahakali Yantra is that black dot. That black dot is the Bindu. That is the portal. And what it's talking about is this portal that is really the kind of separating or liminal space between knowing ourselves as the infinite and knowing ourselves as the finite. We are used to knowing ourselves as the finite. So when we understand that portal and why it's often symbolically depicted as this black, mysterious, impenetrable dot, right? It's impenetrable to the mind. So to pass through that portal, we have to go beyond the mind. The mind is limited eye consciousness, limited eye awareness. So to go through that portal, to go beyond that, is to reclaim the knowledge of our own infinite nature that was never occluded, never disappeared, never gone, but the mind lives in the domain of differences, so it doesn't see that unity. So when we talk about what does it take to get there, to know that, to pass through that portal, well, the person who asked the question was right. It's really based a lot on our longing and our intention to go beyond the mind. That's why, again, in various traditions, mystic traditions, that longing to know is itself seen as that influx of grace that's drawing us to go beyond and not be satisfied with all the ephemeral things that the ordinary mind and senses get involved with and spend lifetimes exploring. So it's that ripening as well that we get to the place in the arc of the evolution of individual consciousness, that it's that place where we're finally saying, oh, this isn't the answer. Wandering around the senses, wandering around the world, having power, having no power, having possessions, having no possessions, having sensory pleasures, having no sense. We've explored it all across lifetimes. And then finally, we're saying, oh, that knowledge is always there. There's always a part of us, it's actually the fullness of ourself, that knows there was something more. That longing for that something more begins to become stronger and stronger. And that is the living presence of grace. That is the power of the infinite saying, it's time to dissolve that. Because the one who created the separation is really the only one who can dissolve it. The mind can have its experience of longing, but that curtain, that black dot, what in the yogic tradition is known as the causal body. Well, it's called the causal body because it causes everything that comes afterwards. It causes the limited mind to come into existence. It causes the body to be formed. It causes everything. But it itself is caused by the infinite, the cause of all causes. That is our own sublime self, the infinitude of being, the truth of who we are. So it's a combination of doing the practices and keeping our mind trained to not engage in the fantasy that the answer is going to be found merely through what it's been exploring for lifetimes. Satisfactions, some desires, avoidance of things that are painful. We've played out that drama through countless lifetimes and countless different creatures we've been. And so it's really that point of, wait a minute, this has got to end. That's what draws us to it. And then the practices help to sustain that intention for the mind. Because you know the mind. What it intends in the morning may not be what it's doing later in the morning or in the afternoon. So being able to help keep the mind oriented towards looking in a new direction. Look in. Look beyond. Look to the infinite. When we engage in mantra, it seems like a thought. Om Kalima, Om Namah Shivaya. They're words, they're sounds, they're thoughts, but their origin isn't the mind. Right? So when we engage in practices like mantra that come from beyond the mind, they can take us back to their source. The source is our own self. So we make use of the practices to keep the mind trained to keep looking beyond what's going on in ordinary everyday life. Not to the negation of that. We still maintain our skills and our mastery and our engagement. This is the dharma of the body and the mind, to live in the world. But how do we walk the truth of true knowing simultaneously? We don't have to walk through the world blind and ignorant, flailing about, creating suffering for ourselves and others. So we can still walk through the world, but now informed by the wisdom of our own highest nature, whether we call it Buddhist nature, Christ consciousness, whatever it might be. That's what then is suffusing the truth of who we are. That we then have access to the qualities of our infinite nature, the qualities of boundless love, boundless compassion, boundless wisdom, unshakable steadiness, equanimity. These aren't qualities of mind. We know how much the mind fluctuates. So to know the infinite in those sublime qualities is to then allow them to more and more inform the mind, infuse the mind, ease the body. So the poor body keeps reacting to what's going through the mind. But when we start to run the truth of that boundless compassion, that boundless love, that boundless kindness, then even the body sheds its tension, its stress, its dis-ease. So that's where all the practices are aimed at bringing us into accord with that. Thought I'd share, because it's along these lines. This is an unpublished new poem. The one wishing to know, 2, 3, 4, created mind like a prism, unity consciousness passing through the differentiating mind appears as countless forms, including the form of individuality, of self. Yet the one remains unbroken, undifferentiated. In the midst of differences, it sees only one, only itself. It is the one illuminating itself as multiplicity. Without its radiance, even the sun would disappear in darkness. Consciousness is the substratum of all existence. As the one, we behold all as our beloved self. As mind, we behold otherness everywhere. Mystics, returning to source, passing upstream through the mind, return to unity consciousness, eternally present, source and substance of all appearances. So that causal body, that's the seed of mind coming in. So we can think of it like a prism, right? Because we know a prism, you put white light through one side and it differentiates it into a rainbow of colors on the other side. The one is still there, but if we shift our attention to the many, now we're just seeing the many. The one sees it all, and created the mind as that differentiating instrument for being able to see diversity and unity. So sadhana practices are really about reclaiming that ability to know that pure consciousness before it's differentiated. It's always there. And it sees all the differentiation. It's identification with the mind. It's like being identified with one color of a rainbow, and seeing all the other colors as something else. But imagine that rainbow is made of billions of different colors. That's reality in this differentiated world. The source is one. It's become this multiplicity. So then we can understand this next poem. Seeing the mind. Seeing the mind as it is a prism. Not seeing the mind as it is a prison. So when we see the reality, we get free. It's just a prism. It's the play of light and shadow. It's the dance of Shakti. There are many different ways that this is described and experienced. But if we become the mind, if we don't see the mind as what that is, that prism, that differentiating principle, we become the mind. Now we feel bound. Now it's become a prison. So all the practices are aimed at that shift in consciousness, shift in identification. What are we identified with in the moment? Whatever we are identified with, whatever we have become, it limits our vision. It limits our scope of even ability to respond to what's happening. Identification with limitation limits everything about who we think we are. So all the practices, in one way or another, are about letting go, and letting go, and letting go, and letting go. The mind is going to remain, and the mind will go through its various ways of identifying with things. We're adding to it the infinite, boundless sense of being that can help invite the mind, that even within its limited identifications, there are some it can let go. So many things that we inherited from our childhood, from our culture, from our parents, from our traumas, that we can let go of, still be an individual, but with greater freedom. It's not about wiping all that makes up what this individual instrument is. That too is the divine, part of its creation. The divine isn't seeking to dissolve that. It's saying, no, add to it this fullness of this infinite love, this boundless embrace, this extraordinary compassion and wisdom and kindness. Add that. What happens when we start running that through this mind and body? Then it's transformed. New channels open up. In the same way that we create new neural circuits in our mind for being able to go to compassion, go to love, go to kindness, go to gratitude, go to wisdom, go to equanimity, instead of going to reactivity, going to annoyance, going to irritation, all the old pathways. So on a very practical level, these things are transforming our mind, our body, and our way of being able to walk in the world. And more walk the truth, the light of who we are into this world. That's what we're invited to know. That's what it means to sort of pass through that portal, pass through that Bindu. Because on that boundless awareness, there is no fear. There is no other. What would there be to fear? There's no lack, there's no want, there's no need, there's no other. It's the infinitude of simply being. So in the yoga tradition, the qualities of that, it's not an empty void. Just because the mind can't go there doesn't mean it's an empty void. So the yogis would talk about Satchidananda. Sat, that which is true at all times in all places. Chit, pure consciousness, all embracing, all pervasive. Ananda, this rapturous, loving, joyous quality. These are irreducible qualities of that consciousness. Buddha talked about it as the Four Immeasurables. The boundless wisdom, the boundless love, the boundless equanimity, the boundless joy. That these are qualities that are irreducible. And the poor mind keeps seeing them as different qualities. They're not. That consciousness is that, period. You can't separate out. Remember, the mind is that differentiating mechanism. We have fire. Can you separate heat from fire just because you can talk about light and heat as different things? No. In fire, they're one. In consciousness, these qualities are one. They're one with you. They're the truth of your being. That's what all the mystic traditions point to. Dissolving into that, knowing that, and letting that then inform the ordinary mind and our life in the everyday world. So we can bring an end to suffering. Because we can then see it's the ignorance and all the lack and want and desperation that ignorance, not knowing the truth of who we are, creates, that then has people flailing about, grasping at things, denigrating others, putting people down, going for power, all to fill the void created by that ignorance. When we know the truth of who we are, we can abide in peace. We can abide in steady wisdom. We can abide in the truth of what we are. That's what we come home to. But I'd share another new poem. It's called Rise. The new day sun rises over the ocean luminous mist drifts ashore, enveloping me in a cloud of light. Walking into the radiant mist, becoming the mist, I rise into the sun-drenched sky. Becoming sky, I rise into open space, becoming space, infinite, all-embracing. I hold all. All is born within me. So even when we perceive things, we can use that perception as a way to go beyond. This is what's done in the dharanas, the kind of focusing devices in the ancient Vijnana Bhairava, where you would meditate on the open sky, sort of merging awareness with the infinitude of space, recapturing the quality that awareness is unbounded. We can do that when we see something beautiful, a sunrise, a sunset, an exquisite bird in the bushes. We can start to see that the portals for coming to know the infinitude of who we are, they can also be awakened through the senses. That when we let go of the object itself and keep going further and further, we can go into the infinite. So the gateway, the portal, it's always open. It's always inviting us. It's that we get so attracted by the habits of mind to identify with this, to go seeking that, to avoid this other thing, to be annoyed by this, to be loving of that, to like that, all within the mind. That's why it takes this kind of discipline to keep saying, yes, yes, that creates a rich tapestry of life. But when we add the self-radiant, luminous one, the infinitude of being, that tapestry lights up in ways we could never have imagined. The luminous quality of the divine within. Let that illumine all the senses and what's being perceived. Because with the divine looking through the senses, still only sees itself. That's the invitation. Keep coming back to that. So whether we're doing practices or living our life, if we have the remembrance, the practice of attending to that, the presence, the full presence of the divine is here and now. That's a practice. To hold that awareness, to hold the possibility even, is what helps to open the door of the mind to knowing that in the moment. So that's a mental discipline as well. Wait a minute, it's here and now. And then we have to ask ourselves, what have I become here and now? What did I become that limited my awareness, that limited the love I carry, the compassion I carry, the wisdom I carry? What limited that? It was a limited identity I got caught in. Let me let go of that and come back to the fullness of being, so that can inform this time, this place, wherever that may be. That's a root quality of practice, to keep coming back in that way, to keep remembering. And then we use things to remind us. We use, it can be pictures and icons, statues, things in our environment, music that we play, chants that we play, mantra that we keep going, so that we're doing japa throughout the day. Japa, that continuous repetition, silent repetition of mantra, is one of the principal practices to keep the mind in touch with infinite being, its source. So the more we keep coming back to mantra, and the more we identify it with mantra, that's the next stage. Okay, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Kalima, or Om. Right? But the mind can be doing that as if it's something else, it's something different. I have to do it with the awareness. Aham, aham, I am. I am. I am the mantra. I am the practice. I am the source. I am. Not the limited mind, and the infinite one, your true nature. So we hold that. And then when we're actually doing a sitting meditation practice, then it becomes a delight because now we don't have to attend to anything. We can just dissolve in that awareness. I am. I am. The infinite, the one. Beyond words, beyond thoughts, beyond constructs, beyond descriptions. It's all God. All God. Nothing left. Nothing left. That awareness in the Buddhist tradition is talked about as the mother of all Buddhas. That's the Bhagavati Prajnaparamita. That's that deep, profound wisdom knowing. That's seen as the Bhagavati, the great goddess, the one who gives birth to all Buddhas. That's you. You're a Buddha. You have Buddha mind. You have that. So that's why, when we're doing the Heart Sutra, it starts out with, coursing through deep Prajnaparamita. That's going into that state of pure wisdom, pure knowing, beyond thoughts and constructs. So in a few moments we're going to be chanting a mantra of Om Kali Ma, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. But first I want to read this, because this is similar to the Heart Sutra. It's called Mind Be Prepared. Coursing through deep Prajnaparamita, mind, be prepared. All coming, all going, cease. Not one, not two, no inside, no outside, no emergence, no dissolution, no going, no gone, no savriti, no nivriti, no pravriti. All as all forms, no forms, all as all. Consciousness and ecstasy, gone. Beloveds, gone. All as all beyond, beyond, no beyond. No time, no space, no past, no present, no future. All time, all space, all universes, all. A dimensionless dot. There's that Bindu. Then gone. Swaha. That's how we go into that deep, profound state of wisdom. It's the neti. Yeah? It's not this. Anything that can be thought, anything that can be described, any words that the mind desperately grasping to get a hold of this can construe. Gone. When we dissolve in mantra, that's really what we're doing. We're dissolving everything. We're even going beyond the whatever is being imagined as the mantra. It's beyond that. That's why mantra starts out in this gross form. Right? So as, Om Kali Ma. So that's a gross form. If you say it silently in your mind, it's a subtler form. If it starts repeating itself, it's an even subtler form. But mantra is self-dissolving. When we enter the vehicle of mantra, the mantra will dissolve you with itself back into the infinite source. So as we become identified with mantra, and the mantra becomes subtler and subtler and subtler, until it's simply a throb of the awareness of I am. Not the thought of that, just the awareness. Pure being, beyond all words, all forms. Knowing that, we can then see how it delights in creating all words, all forms, all realities. But we have to go into that state of absolute stillness beyond stillness to know that, and then walk that wisdom into the world, into everyday life. So now we're going to be chanting the mantra Om Kali Ma, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. And Kali is the black Bindu. Kali means the great dark goddess, the black goddess. The whole Tara tradition comes out of Kali Ma. So it's invoking her first with form and then dissolving, 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 till we just wind up in that stillness. So we'll chant for a few minutes and then just rest in the stillness, our own infinite being, the divine embrace. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Om Kali Ma. Om Kali Ma. Kali Durga Namo Namah. Kali Durga Namo Namah. So we end with this prayer that may all our practices truly benefit everyone, and may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. Namaste. So here we are, travelers in and out of the Bindu, only there's no in and out. There only is. The mind perceives an inside and an out, a this and a that. The true self. All it sees is itself. All times, all places, always has. It's its eternal nature. The mind has an ephemeral nature. The eternal nature beyond the mind. The mind's not an enemy. We don't turn against the mind. We cultivate the mind. We train the mind. You know that you have a mind, but you're not the mind. You have a body, you're not the body. You're not the limited consciousness of the mind. You're the infinite one. All practices, they're really just reminders. That eternal truth, eternal being, eternal presence, always, here, now. I want to thank you all for coming this evening and bringing your divine self, the power of your practices, the power of your commitment, for being ones walking this light of truth and knowing into the world in your own ways, in your own lives. So precious, especially in this time. So thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the ways that you support Anamkar and pass on what we offer through videos and e-newsletters and writing. So thank you for that. And I look forward to seeing you then in September. I think September 1st. Yes, September 1st. And it's going to be our 100th satsang that we've been broadcasting during COVID times. So a milestone that we wish we hadn't met, but here we are. So it's both, it's a blessing. So we'll be celebrating that, and it might be a time for change. It might be changing the format of things. So I hope to see you on September 1st. So again, thank you all for coming.